Hey everyone, Gnosis Knockout, Volume 3. We're on Lesson 102, Interviewing, and this time we're going to be talking about person and not subject. Now, in the previous episode, we talked about the importance of research and how it better informs your interview, makes you seem more original, helps you connect deeper with your interviewee. Today, we're going to be talking about remembering that the person that you're talking to is in fact a person. They're not your subject. They're not this repository of information that you're trying to get from. This is an actual living, breathing individual who you are talking to. That's right, talking to, not questioning, not giving a questionnaire. Not, like I said, they're not a machine that gives you, feeds you out a script of information. No, this is an actual person. And you're probably thinking to yourself, yeah, I know that, right? But let's be real. You've definitely watched interviews before where someone is very hands-off. They're more focused on the answer than what the person is saying to them. They're not engaging with the person. There's not any laughter, any facial expressions. There's just the nods of approval. You can only see the gears turning. You need to remember that you're speaking to a living, breathing human being. And this is extremely important, not only for your interviewee, but for your audience. Now, granted, if you're doing a written interview, the chances of your audience knowing that you didn't talk to your interviewee like a person, but a subject, they probably won't pick up on it. And you can hide a lot of the mistakes you've made in a written interview, especially if you're turning your questions into a feature. I am a specialist in Q&A style interview format, so I can't speak to that too much, but you can get away with this mistake if all you're doing is using people for quotes. And I want you to realize something. You should never use someone for information. You are talking to a person in hopes of them better informing you. This type of language distinction is extremely important in making sure that you have the right mindset when you're conducting your interviews. If you don't have a correct mindset, it's something that's going to be picked up on, and it's going to make everything about your interview feel artificial. The best interviews, the ones that we connect with, the ones that we remember, the ones that we talk about with other people, are the interviews that feel like a conversation. Sure, sometimes you remember an interview because there was some amazing knowledge bomb that was dropped, or you just found out something about your favorite player and you share that story with them, and so now you have this deeper connection with them. For example, when I interviewed No Kami, one of the top 8 competitors in Dragon Ball FighterZ at EVO, I found out that he too had an injury that prevented him from competing in sports anymore. And this is something I relate to because I injured my knee in soccer in high school and could no longer continue doing sports into college like I had planned on doing. These type of things are great, but do you know how you get that information? By having your interviewee open up to you. And the only way a person is ever going to open up to you is if you treat them like a living, breathing human being. And it's probably sounding a little cringy that I'm repeating it this way, but I need you to understand that doing it in any other form is not only disrespectful, it's not genuine. Who wants to watch an interview where you go, so, double lift, you just won NA. How does it feel? And then you shove the mic in his face, and then this is you. Amazing. Double lift, you're the greatest AD carry in the universe. Tell me, how bad is Uzi compared to you? Now, sure, you may be expressive and emotive when you speak, But the reason you're only doing it when you speak is because you're not thinking about the person you're talking to. And when you do that, it will be picked up on. And you're not going to get the greatest answers you can. Make sure that when you're interviewing your interviewee, that you are emotive, expressive, laugh, make a face. When a player says something that you don't necessarily agree with, like Double F saying, he's the greatest AD carry in the world, let your face tell him that. Let him know that you might be picking up on something. And you can then challenge that statement. Now, here's the cool thing about that. It's organic. When we have conversations with real, living, breathing human beings, we make facial expressions. We use body language. We do things that show that we are an active participant of a conversation. And remember, interviews aren't questionnaires. We're not using the person for information. We are having a conversation with an individual to inform us. Whether it is to inform us for a quote for an article, whether it's to inform us for the official interview for them, whether it's to inform us, and we're just using that information in a giant feature we're doing about NA talent, right? All of those scenarios, we need to make sure that we're having an active, engaged conversation with a person, a living, breathing human being. Yeah, I know I'm getting a little cringy with these things, but they're really, really important. I promise you. This definitely is probably one of the biggest complaints I have when I watch a lot of esports content creators and journalists conduct their video interviews. Now I understand having camera presence is difficult. A lot of people don't spend a lot of time in front of the camera. A lot of people don't like the way they look, but you need to consider the fact that you are having a conversation with someone. And the best way to also get over your camera awkwardness is to, one, forget that there's a camera there, and two, focus more on the conversation. If you think of your interview as just an interview, you will not have an organic conversation with your interviewee. This is extremely, extremely important. Remember what I was saying. Nobody wants to watch you do this. Nobody wants to watch your head nod. Maybe if you were banging out to some sweet song and, it's got the great drum and the bass and you're like, yeah, that's kind of cool to watch. Maybe not as cool with me with my thinning hair and it's really short, but like if you had long hair and you were banging out, it'd be pretty dope. It's like watching like Wayne's World or something. But I digress. You need to make sure that your interviewee knows that you're there for a conversation with them. And this is something that I brought up in the last episode. This is something that's going to be brought up repeatedly through this lesson. You are a living, breathing human being, and so is your interviewee. And this means that you're going to have engaged moments. Trust me, treating them like an actual person will get you some of the greatest and most interesting responses that you could have never imagined. For example, when I was talking to Knuckle at Evo, I was not expecting him to tell me that he hates travel. This dude goes to every event. This dude was going to a bunch of events when he was unsponsored or, sponsored by my wallet, as in his wallet, because I can't sponsor nobody. We got like 13 cents in there. But when you're talking to somebody and you're expressing yourself to them, they're going to be expressive and emotive back. If you don't give expressive and emotive questions, they're going to respond with the driest answer possible because they have picked up on the fact that you were talking at them and to them instead of conversing with them. Remember in the last lesson we said overstated a lot? Today we're going to say overstated a lot probably again. It cannot be overstated how important it is to treat them like a person and have a conversation. And now some of you might be thinking to yourselves, I don't treat them like an object, but I can tell you that you probably aren't thinking about having a conversation. You're probably thinking about the interview. This is why, personally, I don't use note cards when I conduct my interviews. This is not a knock on note cards. One of my good friends and comrades in journalism content, Michael Dr. Parati, loves his note cards. He likes writing down either actual questions or he likes writing down the sort of topics he wants to hit on during the interview, and it also makes him feel more comfortable and confident on camera. This is fine. If you are a note card user when you do your interviews, warning, I am not telling you to not do this. The reason I personally don't use note cards is because I want to make sure that there's no breaking of the fourth wall. There's no, there is no doubt in my interviewee's mind that we are having a conversation that just happens to be recorded. I really want you guys to think about this when you conduct your next interview. 1, don't think of it as an interview. You are having a conversation with what? A living, breathing human being. Step 2, be emotive. When you talk to your best friend, you probably don't have a scowl on your face. Make sure that you are reacting, engaging with what your interviewee is saying. Let them know that you're not just thinking about the next question, but that you are listening to what they're saying and you are receiving it. Once again, this is to make sure that you're having an organic conversation with a what? A living, breathing human being. And step 3, no more head nods. No more head nods. When you're talking to a person, make it clear. Have eye contact, like I'm doing right now. Oh man, that's really creepy. Maybe I should stop doing that. Make sure that you follow these 3 steps because you'll be more likely to let that person know that you're engaged with them and that you care about what they're saying and you care about them. Now, we didn't give you homework last episode, but we're going to give some homework this lesson. Any of you who watch this lesson, you can either comment in the YouTube, comment on Patreon, or tweet at me. Here's your homework. I want you to tell me what other people do in conversations that makes you feel like you are part of the conversation, that you are respected, and that those people are engaged with you. Yep, it's that simple. I want you to tell me what it's like when you have a real conversation with your friends. Now, our next lesson, as I look it up, is the right question. This is going to be a topic where we discuss the right mindset for your interview. So until then, remember, go beyond plus ultra, and you are talking to a living, breathing human being.